Nuclear talks between the U.S. and Iran wrapped up in Switzerland this morning. A U.S. official says progress was made, but there are a lot of details to discuss. President Trump's special envoy, Steve Witkoff, along with son-in-law Jared Kushner, led the discussions. Afterward, the duo headed directly to another round of meetings, but this time involving Ukraine and Russia. Joining us, MS Now international reporter Inez de la Catera in Geneva and Council on Foreign Relations senior fellow in Middle East Studies, Stephen Cook. You know, they call it shuttle diplomacy because you get on a shuttle to negotiate between different states. This is more like hallway diplomacy over there in Geneva. Inez, bring us up to speed.
Hey, Katie. Yeah, very busy day in Geneva as the U.S. held talks on both Iran and Ukraine. So on Iran, those talks happened this morning. We understand they were indirect talks, so the U.S. and Iran never actually came face to face. Instead, they met privately with the Omani foreign minister who mediated these negotiations. The talks took place at the Omani ambassador's residence. We were there outside of that residence watching the delegations go in, coming out. The talks lasted roughly 3.5 hours. I will say on the way out, there was a little bit of scuffles that broke out. There were Iranians in exile there who were protesting, who shouted at the American delegation as they were leaving, "Why do you negotiate with terrorists?" I'll let you listen to what one of the protesters had to say.
I believe it's one of the things that Americans supposed to do. Do not negotiate with terrorists. Why are you negotiating with terrorists right now? Nobody in Iran wants you to negotiate with them. We want our right to fight. The people of Iran want their right to fight. We don't want boots on our ground. We don't want our country to be bombed.
Now, in terms of what actually came out of these talks, it does appear that they may have made some progress. The Iranians were certainly putting a positive spin on it, saying that they had agreed to a general framework, suggesting that there could be another round of talks in the coming weeks, so they wouldn't give a date. We did get a little bit more nuance from the Americans, who said that there's still a lot of work to be done and that the Iranians have promised to come back to the U.S. In the next 2 weeks with kind of more details regarding their proposals.
So, Stephen, last time there were real indirect talks regarding or talks about Iran's nuclear program was, not during this administration, but during the Obama administration. And it took a long time. Secretary Kerry broke his leg. It took so long while he was biking out there in Geneva in Switzerland. What is the likelihood, or have things changed enough to make this round of diplomatic negotiations, indirect though they may be, between the Americans and indirectly the Iranians, to speed it up, to make any sort of outcome possible in a short time frame?
Well, ostensibly, the weakness of the Iranian regime, which took a beating at the hands of the Israelis and the United States last June, as well as December and January's mass protests and uprising against the regime. But so far, Iranian officials have been steadfast. They're not going to give up their right to enrichment. And they have said that they will not limit their ballistic missile program or give up on their proxies. And that's the real interesting thing coming out of today's talks. The Iranians are indicating that they have agreed with the United States on the scope of future negotiations. Is this nuclear only, or is this nuclear plus? Something that includes the broader agenda that Secretary of State Marco Rubio has articulated regarding Iran's ballistic missiles and its support for proxies. Very, very unclear. It seems to me there's a lot of gamesmanship going on, particularly on the part of the Iranians, by announcing progress and suggesting that there would be an exchange of ideas in the coming weeks. The United States is being much more circumspect about it.
Can you trust the Iranians?
It strikes me that the Iranians are trying to wrap the president around extended negotiations to buy themselves some time. As I said before, they are still reeling from the huge protests against the regime. They're engaged in a widespread crackdown. They don't necessarily have control over their airspace, and they're facing down an enormous American military force in the waters off of Iran. So it is in their best interest to buy time. But there's really no indication, at least from the supreme leader, that there's going to be the kind of flexibility that will bring about the agreement that President Trump and his advisors believe is necessary.
All right, Inez, what about Ukraine, Russia?
Yeah, so interestingly, those talks happened in the afternoon, and in that case, the U.S., Ukraine, and Russia did meet face-to-face in a trilateral format. So they were all in the room together. We saw pictures coming out of the meeting as it was getting underway. In terms of what was actually said, we're still waiting for readouts on that. Ukrainian officials who were there did suggest that there could be more talks happening tomorrow, but unclear if they've made, really a lot of progress. We know that going into these talks, the big sticking points were, of course, security guarantees, territory. Marco Rubio talked about this at the Munich Security Conference, saying that, they had kind of narrowed down peace talks to just a few key issues, but those issues were the hardest to resolve. And we know that's been security guarantees and specifically who will get to control the Donbass. So, I expect if there are more talks tomorrow, we'll get a readout after that. But yeah, interesting that they all came face to face. Of course, the U.S. delegation led by the president's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, and the special envoy, Steve Witkoff.